Hi there, so we'll talk about week 1 science. There's 2 experiments for this week, so they're both in the Van Cleve's experiment book, number 2 and number 17. Before I get to that, I forgot to mention the other resource that is available that Brenda had offered was that Cornerstone Science lessons. So those are fine if you're wanting to print those off from Brenda and follow along with that. I just ask whatever you're using to try to keep it as close to what is outlined in the Foundations Guide and the Van Cleve's book as possible, just because with 6 classes it would be good to try to keep things consistent, because most families have children in at least 2 or 3 different classes, and so if we can try to keep the activities as consistent as possible throughout the among all the classes, that'd be great. I know that some things are going to be changed because younger students will be learning differently than the older students, and that's fine, but I'm just asking for everyone to try to keep it as close to what is in the CC Foundations Guide as possible. So week 1, the first experiment that we'll talk about is shaded, and it's a very simple experiment. So the focus of this one is going to be on discussion, and the names document that I had mentioned in the previous video has a lot of questions to ask. There's questions like, how do you feel in the shade versus in the sun? What do you think we will see on the thermometer today? Stuff like that. There's several other questions as well. And other ones too. Some students probably have never read a temperature on a thermometer, so it would be good to just go over that and how a thermometer works and how to read it. We can talk about the differences between shade and sun. So how are they going to locate a shady spot? What will a shady spot look like? And then why is it darker in a shady spot versus a sunny spot? And yeah, from there we just have, I'll show the only materials that we need for that one are thermometers. So I'll have 2 thermometers set out in sun and 2 in the shade. And then I'll just ask, there'll be 3 groups doing science at the same time, but I'll just ask that one of the groups starts with the same place experiment first, and then the other 2 groups can use the thermometers. And yeah, so I think that was it for the shaded experiment. For the same place experiment, that's number 17 in the Van Cleve's book, and it's talking about satellites in orbit, basically. So the only material that we need for that is some rope. So I just have this twine. Sheena will be giving everybody some of that. We will, for this experiment, the stationary object is representing Earth. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't had a chance to drive by there to know if there are trees. And the experiment says to stand beside a tree because that is a stationary object, right? But you might need to choose something else if there aren't enough trees, or just bring something to mark an X on the sidewalk, or to put a pylon or something. We'll figure it out to mark a stationary spot. And so the person standing next to that object is going to be representing Earth, and then the person on the other end of the rope is the satellite orbiting Earth. And for this, again, talking about focusing on discussion, and then you can also change, what if we shortened the rope? What would the orbiting person, how would that make them go more slowly or more quickly to keep up with the person at the center spot? What if we made the rope longer? What would the orbiting I guess, speed or distance speed then. And just to be talking about those and comparing. And then weeks 4 and 5 for our CC Science is also talking about satellites and orbiting. So if you want to look ahead to those experiments, you can get a little bit more information on this one. But as far as materials go, all we need for these 2 experiments are the thermometers and the rope. So that's what Sheena will be setting up for this experiment. Okay, bye.